Hello and welcome to Snails and Fairy Dust. Today I have this new beaded earring pattern and I wanted to show you how to make it. You can find the pattern on my website or in my Etsy shop and you can follow along here. So to get started, I am using size 11 Miyuki Delicacy beads. You can find the exact bead numbers in the pattern. I have a size 12 beading needle. I have Fireline beading thread and a 6-pound weight. This I use for the top part of the earring. And then I have a nylon beading thread for the fringe part of the earring, which gives it a nice flow. I also have these beading thread guards, and the ear wires. And I have my pattern to follow along with. So let's get started. To begin, I cut about a 4-foot length of my Fireline beading thread, and I pick up the first 4 beads in the first row of my pattern. I slide those beads down towards the end of my thread. I want to leave about a 4-inch tail. And then I bring my needle back around and come back up through the first 2 beads that I've just added, like so. And that's going to loop around and it will make the beads sit next door to each other like this. And that's the beginning of our ladder stitch. And then we're going to bring our needle back down through the second 2 beads. Pull that tightly, and you should have something that looks like this. Next, we pick up our next 2 beads in the pattern, and we come back down through those second 2 beads, like so. Again, we're looping around. So we pull this down, and then we come up through those beads we've just added to secure them, like so. Pull that tight. And then we have the 3rd beads in that row. And then we do that again, pick up the next 2 beads in our first row of the pattern. And we come up through those last beads we've just added. Pull that tight. And then we come down through those newest beads. Like that. And this is called a ladder stitch because as you see, it lines up like the rungs of a ladder. And we do that again, pick up our next 2 beads, come down through those beads we've just added, pull that tightly, and then come back up through those newest beads. And just continue the row like this, adding 2 beads at a time. There are actually 17 sets of 2 beads in this row. So I just want you to work through that. And when you get to the end, meet me back here and we will learn how to start a row of brick stitch. So keep on beading. I'll see you in a sec. Okay, so here we are. We have finished that first row of ladder stitch, and we are going to begin the second row of the pattern, which is brick stitch. So we pick up the 4 beads, the first 4 beads in that second row of the pattern, and we're going to slide our needle under this second little thread bridge. There are these little bridges between the beads, and we want to go the second one from the outside, slide your needle under that little bridge of threads, and then pull those beads tight. And then we're going to need to set them in place. And to do that, we're going to come back up through the second 2 beads we've just added and pull that. And then we are going to come down through the first 2 beads we've just added. If I can get both of them here, there we go. So down through those 2 beads. And then we're going to come up through the second 2 beads again, and we'll be ready to carry on from there. So up through these 2 beads. And now everyone is sitting where they're supposed to. Like so. And then we're going to pick up our next 2 beads in the pattern. Come underneath that next thread bridge, like that. Pull that tightly, and this time just come straight back up through those 2 beads. There we go. And then we do the same thing with the next 2 beads. Slide underneath that thread bridge. Try not to get your tail stuck in there. And then you're going to come right back up through those 2 beads. Like so. And again, underneath the thread bridge, and then right back up through those 2 beads. And you're going to continue to build the row in this way, adding 2 beads at a time until you get to the end of this row. And when you do get to the end of this row, you are going to meet me back here, and I will show you how to start a row of brick stitch again, because I know that can be kind of tricky. It's pretty much the trickiest part in brick stitch if you want your row started in the correct way where your thread is not exposed. But once you get the hang of it, you are going to be fine. So you keep working on that, and I will meet you back here. And this is my new kitten, Bean, who this was the first time he saw me beading, and he was very curious. We're going to have to figure out how to work together in a better way. Okay, I'll see you back here for the next row. Okay, here we are at the 3rd row. Bean is taking a nap now. So you're going to start the row with the same way we did before. I just wanted to show you how to do that again. A little reminder. Pick up your 4 beads, slide your needle underneath the 2nd thread bridge, and then come back up through the second 2 beads, and then down through the first 2 beads, and then back up through the second 2 beads again. And then you are ready to carry on, adding 2 beads at a time, the same way you did in the last row. You totally have got this. I'm sure you're like a pro by now. So you carry on with that and continue to work your rows until you get to the top of the pyramid. And then meet me back here, and I will show you how to add a wire guard, or thread guard, as it's sometimes called. Okay, so here we are at the top of the pyramid, and now it is time to add our thread guard, or sometimes called a wire guard. So we put our needle through the little hole at the bottom of the thread guard, slide it down to our beadwork, and then we bring our needle through the hole on the other side of it, and then through the other 2 beads at the top of our pyramid there. And then we want to repeat that process. So we want to find a path back up to the outside edge of that thread guard. So to do that, I'm going to go down 2 rows. And then I'm going to go back up so I end up at the outside edge of that thread guard. So up that one, up these outside 2, and now we're perfectly lined up to go back through that thread guard. So we're going to loop around that again to make sure it's extra secure. Try not to loop around my thread and make a knot here. And I've done it anyway. So I'm going to unhook myself here. You want to take your time, and you don't want to end up with knots now that you've done all that beautiful beadwork. And then I'm going to come down the other side. And now when I do this, I'm just going to find, I'm going to go down about 2 rows, and then I'm going to find 2 beads to loop around and then clip my thread. And when I loop around the 2 beads, it's going to anchor my thread by creating tension so that it doesn't come unraveled. So here I found these two sets of neighboring beads. And what I'm going to do is loop around them twice. And then that creates the tension I need to keep my thread in place rather than making a knot. So now I'm ready to cut that. And then we are going to next add our thread for the fringe. Okay, so for the fringe, I am going to cut about 4 feet of this nylon thread. And then it's very important with this thread that you stretch it before you use it. You want to get all of the stretch out of it so it doesn't end up stretching out on you later. And then you're going to anchor that thread. And to do that, we use the same technique that we used to anchor the other one before we clipped it. Find 2 sets of 2 beads that you could wrap around 2 times and then weave down a few beads until you get to your starting point. So this is where I'm anchoring. Pulling that feels good. And now I'm just going to bring my needle down the outside edge of my beadwork. So I end up exiting the first 2 beads in that row of ladder stitch where we first began. So here I am working all the way down. And when I get to those outside beads on the row of ladder stitch, I'll be ready to begin adding my fringe. These are the ones I'm talking about. And now I am ready. And then to do that, I am going to look at my beading chart on my pattern and pick up the beads in accordance to the pattern, which is boring to watch. So let's skip ahead with magic here. And now I have the beads counted out. I'm going to get those all pulled down. And then what I'm going to do is pick up my anchor bead. So those are the beads for the fringe. Now I pick up the anchor bead. And then you take your needle and you bring it back through all of the beads through the fringe. Take your time with this process. The main thing here is you don't want to skip a bead. That's a real pain if you have the string sort of missing a bead. So take your time, make sure your needle gets through all of these beads. And then when you get to the top of the row of fringe, you're going to bring your needle also through those 2 beads in the row of ladder stitch like that. There you go. That's your first row of fringe. And then you're going to bring your needle down through the next 2 beads in the row of ladder stitch, like so. Try not to get tangled up here. I swear the kitten is throwing me off today. And there you have your first row, and you're ready to add your next row of fringe. So let's do that. We'll take a look at this process again. So I've added all the beads. Now I pick up my end bead and bring my needle back up through all of that fringe, all of the beads in the fringe. Being careful not to skip any. And then I come also up through the 2 beads in the row of ladder stitch. Just like that. And then I come down through the next 2 beads in the row of ladder stitch. Beautiful. And now I'm ready for the 3rd row. So one more time here, and I think you're starting to get the picture. So finish up all of your fringe and then meet me back here and we will anchor our thread and add our ear wires. Here we are, fringe in place, looking gorgeous. Hope you're feeling proud of yourself. I'm going to take my ear wire and open this up a little bit and then thread that on. And then grab my pliers and close that back up. You could also add this on when you're putting the thread guard on. I just always forget to do that, honestly, but that's the easier way to do it. But either way, completely works. And there we have it. We have finished the earrings, and Bean slept through all of it except for the first part where he helped me get started. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you will come back. I'm sure Bean is going to make a lot more appearances in my videos lately. And hopefully he will learn not to mess with the beads so much. Don't forget, you can get the pattern below at one of the links, and I hope you will subscribe for a lot more fun projects. Okay, see you soon.